Hello, game devs. In this video, we're going to talk about Probuilder, which is an internal tool that used to be created by a different company. So if you find some different links online, you'll see it used to be a plugin that Unity actually bought and integrated into its package system. And what Probuilder does is it allows us to create fast and easy geometry, allowing us to stay within Unity when we're doing some quick and dirty 3D modeling. So I'm going to navigate to Window, Package Manager, and I'm going to open up the packages. And I'm going to go down to Probuilder right here. And I am going to install Probuilder. So what Probuilder does is allows us to model in 3D, much like you would in Maya or something else. So just as a reminder, I am using the first-person AIO pack. So if you are starting a new project or in a new build or something like that and don't have that, be sure to download that in all of its dependency packages. That's kind of expected right here. But then we're going to also import Probuilder into it. And you just want to do whatever one is verified. That should be fine. And one of the nice things about most video game development tool sets is that there's documentation, a prolific amount of documentation usually. So if we go online, we can go to Probuilder documentation. And here we go. We've got the Probuilder Unity manual. So one of the best things about Unity that you're going to want to use is the documentation system. This is for Probuilder specifically. And I won't click on many of the links here. And we're just going to go through all the tools individually while we're working through this. So we're just going to be able to touch everything. But if you wanted to get quick reference, it's all up here as well. And there's a series of tutorial videos that they themselves have created. Awesome. So now that we've got Probuilder installed, we're going to close our package window. And we're going to want to bring up the Probuilder window. So see this tools, Probuilder? We're going to go Probuilder window. And it floats a window for you at first, as is normal. And what we're going to do, I like to just dock this into the inspector. You want to make sure that it has enough height because these things are going to change as we mess around with stuff. And the other thing you'll notice is when I bring up the Probuilder window is we have these extra controls here. It's an object selection, vertex selection, edge, and face. So this may not make much sense to you if you don't have any background in 3D, but don't worry, we're going to go over it together. But the first thing we're going to do is, and we're in a new scene, so I'm going to make a save to my scene in my scenes folder. And I'm going to call this Probuilder example 01. If you notice, actually 00. I'm going to go rename my scenes to make it appropriate. So one of the things that we want to do, yes, reload the scene, is index by 0. We want to start everything at 0. But if you notice, I also put 0, 1, or 0, 0 a lot of times. Oftentimes, if I have multiple iterations, there's usually over 10. So it's just habit for me. It's a good habit to get into. So anyway, we're in our scene, Probuilder scene. And we're in our Probuilder menu, and we're going to click on New Shape. We're going to hit the plus sign here so that we can bring up the Shape tool. And New Shape brings us up this object. So this object is not really in the scene, if not yet anyway. We first have to add it by hitting this Build button, but I have different selections. I have Cube. I have a sprite, which is like a 2D image that's animated. There's prisms. And it looks like my lighting is off. There we go. So I had my lighting off by accident. So if you notice, there's also a texture on here. It says 1 meter. Let me zoom in a little bit more. 1 meter prototype. So every meter here is a representational meter in other programs. This is actually really interesting when you use Illustrator, because you can use Illustrator to draw out maps, and they'll have a one-to-one relationship because Illustrator can be set to meters, and you can kind of do that. So we've got prism, we've got staircase, and yeah, let me go over some other stuff. So we've got staircase. Staircase has the amount of steps that are in it, the whether or not you want the sides to be built. Remember backface culling. Maybe we just need the strip here. The curvature. Is there an angle to the stairs? Staircases are really irritating to model, but lots of video games have them. Mirror, so go the opposite direction. The stair width. Make it a more grand staircase, maybe something you might see in Halo a lot. Stair height, you could increase or decrease this depending on what we've got. Inner radius, you could make the staircase thinner or thicker. So we've got a lot of opportunities here to play around. We've got the cylinder, which is the which can be messed around with, is the radius, the number of sides. And you can go, however many you want. But as you can see, it sort of starts getting really, once you get to 20 or 24, 36 or so, it gets pretty circular. Not much reason to go beyond that for most of the time. The height of it and whether or not it's smooth or it has more jagged edges, more sharp edges. Those are called hard normals if you're a modeler versus soft normals. We've got cylinder, we've got door. So this is just a standard door width and height, which can be very helpful for building into walls. If you notice, there's no interior modeling, so you have to attach this to another wall object. We've got planes, and this plane, axis up, you could also point it, to a different direction. Remember, they're one-sided. I'm going to have mine as up, and the plane is actually the thing I'm going to build, and I'm going to set my position of my brush at 0, 0, 0, because like I said, every time I do that, I want to make a 0, 0, 0. We call it zeroing it out or setting it to origin. And I'm going to hit build on this plane while we're going along, and it turns white. Now this allows me to then move around and manipulate a real 3D object that I've created to my specifications. And if I go back to using my tool, my shape tool, I can continue to create other objects. So here's a pipe. And as you can see, the blue means that it's still in a preview mode, as you will. The pipe radius could be different, the height, the number of sides, and the height segments. So one of the things you'll notice here, if we select the vertices or faces. Oh, sorry, I have to build it first. So the height segments is how many times it is segmented, how many times it's cut in half. So see how we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 cuts around, and that means that I can grab, and we'll show this in a second, but I can grab individual polygon faces. But perhaps I would have preferred to have a number of sides is 14, but height segments is 1, because I want to move all of this as one piece. I can hit build, and then there we go. There's only one segment, 1 or 2 segments. It would change up how the geometry works. Okay, so let's go through the rest of the shapes here. We've got cones. We've got which have radius and height and number of sides. We've also got archways. Again, radius, thickness, depth, number of sides, and again, maybe 16 is good, usually pretty good. Degree of arch, so 300. gives that archway, all the way around kind of deal, and whether or not there's end caps there. So I'll just build this. It'll be modern art once again. We've also got a sphere. Spheres have radius. Whoa, too fast. I pressed F to focus down, but I can move, I can increase the radius. I'm inside the sphere, which is why it's disappearing. Increase that. I can increase how many divisions it's got. 2. This makes it smoother, more like a, golf ball. But the more polygons things have, the, harder it is to render everything. We're working with primitives here, but, still. It's always good to stay simple when we can. We also have the torus. And this has rows, the same way we were talking about with the cylinder. We've got columns as well, so you can have the amount around as well as the amount bisecting the torus. You can have an inner and outer radius that's definite. So like a thin ring or whatever. Vertical and horizontal circumference. And then whether or not it's smooth or not. All right, so that's the shape tool. Let's take a look at our stuff since we're doing it. Remember, we have our first person AIO prefab. We're just gonna go in there and drag it, and I'm gonna make sure that the character isn't gonna fall through the ground by moving it around. And here's something weird. I can't move the first person character thing. This is really weird, right? It seems like I could click on it, and I am clicked on it, but when I press W for the mover tool, it doesn't seem to be moving. Now, why do you think that is? All right, so if you took a guess, what is happening is, see these tools here? Right now I'm on face selection because I am able to edit individual pieces of Probuilder's objects, and because Probuilder was a tool that someone else made and Unity bought later, it's not all the way integrated. So these buttons kind of are a little clunky unless you know what you're doing, unless you know that this is the issue. But so on these shape tool selections, we've got face mode, which allows us to grab faces and manipulate those. The edges are these lines here, and we could grab those. I'm holding down shift click to select both of them, and then I'm hitting R to use scale. I'm just scaling it in. See this pivot point? See how the pivot point right now is over here? If I am scaling them, it's going to scale this side all the way over to here. See that? But if I hit this as center, now it's going to pivot from the center of the selections. So that's how this button can come in very big in handy for developing artwork in games. But anyway, there's also vertices where you can individually select a vertice. All right. So I also, if you notice, there are other vertices behind these ones, right? So there is a mode in which I can select everything. And let's see what mode I'm on right now. I'm going to select everything. And then if I fly underneath, I didn't select this vertice right here. Now that can be a big problem if you wanted to move stuff around and, oh look, you've left some vertices behind. So in order to change that, we go to Tools, Probuilder, Select Interaction, Toggle, Select Back Faces. Now, if I hide that vertice and I select it, now I've selected it through the other ones. So if you're looking for an issue, if you're having trouble using the vertice selection tool, that'll help you out, I think, a lot. Just be careful what you're selecting and make sure you're at the right angle. So back to the first person prefab object. I can't move them, right? So if you didn't figure it out yet, it's because we need to go back to object selection. So we were just in this different selection mode, and it locks us off from the regular movement controls when we're in here. So this 3D person, the first person character, now has the mover objects again. I'm going to move this character up, and then that's about it. I can press play, and it automatically jumps over to the game window. And then I can look around, and hey, look, there's my weird object. There's the sphere as well, and I'm standing on this plane. So what if I want to make a room? Well, I think if I'm going to do that, I'm going to use a cube. And we're going to use a cube so that we can get some thickness to our walls. So I'm going to go back to new shape, and I'm going to select cube. And where's my little mover here? And then I'm just going to hit build. Now, one of the things I want to be clear about is when you create Probuilder objects, see this meter information? All of that is programmatically added so that you don't have to do it and it scales correctly. But it only works if the scale is set to 1 in the inspector. So do not use the normal scaling tool in order to make things bigger or smaller. If you're using Probuilder, instead, you need to use these tools to kind of manipulate things. So I'm going to select our object. I do want to set the position back to 0, 0, 0, because that's what we always like to do, right? And now we know it's like right at that corner. So I'm just going to move it down until it looks like a floor, just so that we can have this kind of platform line up with this other platform. All right. So I'm going to grab, and this is, I'm going to move a little bit fast, but I'm going to select my faces, and I am going to just select a face and drag it across. Look at that, how it creates more geometry, right? But if you notice, I don't have enough for all the walls, right? So I need to maybe drag it out more. I'm going to drag out a floor, and I'm just going to make it again, about the same size. But I've got these walls. Let me move this over a skosh. I want to put walls up that slide up. So I'm going to grab my faces, one face, and then I'm going to double click. Oops. I'm going to hold down Control and double click. And now I've selected all of the edge. All right, I'm going to do that again. Left click once, and then Control, double click, and it selects the entire edge. And then I'm going to hit Scale. And Scale is different from Move. What happens when we do Scale is we are going to use, and we can also show you the tool here. Where is it? Extrude faces. So I'll open this up. Extrude distance 0.5. If we just hit extrude faces, there we go. We have more faces. And if you can see the highlighted area, look at that. That's what is going to become my wall in a second. But if you prefer to use the scale tool, if you hit scale, and then I'm going to hold down shift to extrude, and then I'm going to let go because I've already created new geometry on each side. And then I'm going to use the red bit as well and scale that out. And now look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So either way works. Holding down shift while using scale will use the tool extrude and create new geometry for you to select. So now I've done that, and now I've gotten my edge, my wall edge. I'm going to select the top bit, and then I'm going to hold down Control and double click. Look at that. I've selected the edge. And then I'm going to hit the W key to get to my movers. And then I'm going to, again, hold down Shift to extrude that. Now, this is when I'm holding down Shift. Let me do it the other way. See the difference? So it's creating new geometry and pushing it out from wherever it was. And the nice part about this is all one object. So this is going to be one of the tips of the day. This is good when we start making rooms out of one object, because lighting, there's a lot of different reasons, but lighting can be an issue. But if we assemble, and this is how, like, if you ever have played around with the Half-Life engine, the way Half-Life works is that you want to build like 4 cubes. Oops, undo. Get my object mode in. So the way Half-Life works, and not the way we want to do it, is if you want to have a wall, you just kind of make like 4 pieces, or 6 pieces, and they're separate pieces, and you kind of just like line up the seams, so there's that one, and then there would be, and then there would be this one over here, and then you're just kind of like lining up the seams. That's not how we want to do it here in our system. I just wanted to show you an example, and I'll continue sealing up this cube in a second. So what we want to do is we want to keep everything as much of one piece as possible, so that we can have better running and also better looking stuff pretty fast and easy. So I'm going to hold down Shift and extrude this again so that I get another extra ring. This is going to be my roof. So click 1, hold down Control, double click, you've selected everything. So we're going to need to bring this roof together. And again, hitting Scale and then hitting Shift will allow us to pull out some of these walls. I let go of Shift, and now I'm grabbing the blue movers so that I can seal this up. Okay, look at that. Now, I could probably leave this hole here and just like explain it away, but I don't want to do that. I want to get rid of this interior portion, and I want to like connect all of it together so it just all is one ceiling. So how do I do that? Well, in here in our Probuilder system, we have a couple different things. We have extrude faces, but we also have delete faces, and we've got merge faces. So if we want to, we can delete some things, we can merge some stuff. We also have, where is it? We also have, in vertex mode, collapse vertices, connect vertices, split vertices. So now is the time where we're gonna use the vertice mode, and I'm gonna select, left click, 1 selection, 2 selection, fly around, get the other bottom bit, 3, 4. And I want to collapse the vertices. And now if I click off and I click once and move it around, this is one vertice because it welded it together. Isn't that interesting? I didn't want to do that on all 8 of them at the same time, because then it would collapse into a point in the center. So I'm going to now select these vertices, and I'm going to collapse them again. There we go. I've sealed up my ceiling, which is great. All right. So So now that we have our cube room here, what if we wanted to punch a hole through this wall? Well, I'm going to select the face. I need to select both faces. And I am going to subdivide the faces. And then I'm going to subdivide again. And this gives us a rough door shape. If my select back faces is on, I'm going to use my face selection tool. I'm going to select all these faces, and it should select on the other side as well. Oops, looks like I got the floor there. I don't want that one. And it looks like I got this floor. I'm going to unclick those. There we go. Oh, and that one too. I got a lot of stuff. All right. Oh no. So I'm just gonna left click to select all of these pieces. I'm gonna fly to the other side and do the same. Now I have my door. It's a little bit big for a door. I'm gonna scale it in just by using the scale tool. And I am then gonna delete these faces. So now we have our self a gap, but it's an even gap, which is excellent for what we need. So I'm going to select our edge and left click and then control double click, or left click and then control click. Or shift click as well will work. There we go. So now I have control over the edge of the door frame on the inside. I'm just going to hold down, using my mover tools, I'm going to hold down shift and drag out new geometry, which I'll weld to the other side in a second. There we go. Oh, it looks like some of the vertices didn't all move together, but that's okay. We'll get at that in a second. So let's go back to our vertice mode. Let's select the vertices that didn't seem to make it on this side. And scale in there. Okay, so now that we have that, is a matter of welding all the vertices. Now, I want to get all the vertices together, and this time I don't want them all to collapse on their own. So I'm going to hit connect vertices, and if, oops, and I'm going to hit weld vertices, and I'm going to open up this menu. See the weld distance is 0.01. I'm going to say to 0.1, oops, so that anything that is near 0.1 of it will 0.1 units will weld to each other, and see that all snap together there because they were close enough. So now it moves around as one piece, and I can then just grab, I could use faces and grab this inner bit and bust open the door to whatever size I want, and it's just one contiguous piece. And that's one of the things that you want to do as you design levels, is you want to create rooms or areas that have one large base piece and then a lot of smaller components on it. And you know, if you have a level with many rooms, you're going to want to chunk those rooms up into sections so that you can load and unload them for processing and you know, handling. Let's talk about the two other ways to create objects in Probuilder. So go to Tools, Probuilder, and then we've got Editors, New Poly Shape. So this is a really awesome way to do things. I'm just going to fly in and select, find a flat surface, and I'm going to start clicking. And if you notice, it makes this weird, cool shape of whatever it is that I want. There we go. Now that I have that shape, it gives me a second option to bring it up off the floor, and now allows me to have this wicked, unique shape. And if we check our vertices, we can see that it's subdivided with edges and stuff. So this is very helpful. Like it will be, right now it's a single piece, but we can split this up if we wanted to. Just make sure that you split it up so that it's in 4s or 3s. But we can create something totally unique. And, you know, maybe this is a weird coffin or something. Maybe let's rotate it. Oops. I gotta get object mode in so I can rotate the whole thing, move it upwards. And like maybe this is a weird machine thing and it's coming out of, there's some tubes, right? So how do we make good looking tubes? That's actually pretty hard to do too. So go to Tool, Probuilder, and then New Bezier Editor, New Bezier Shape. And the Bezier shape, where is it? F, there it is. So here's our Bezier shape. It's basically 2 points that you can move around, and I'm gonna move them around. And I'm gonna put one of them way over there. And I'm gonna grab the other end and move that over there. So if you've ever used Illustrator or something like that, this is very similar. All right, so you can select that and move it around, position it, and then you could just grab add more points, add another one there, and then click drag that point out. And that's kind of how you can make kind of sinuousy, snaky kind of stuff. It's clipping through the wall. And if you take a look within Probuilder, when you have your Bezier shape, I believe there are some tools. Let's click here. Maybe it's an inspector. Yeah, here we go. Bezier shape. So here's the editor for it if you want to get more in depth. So if you want more like right angles, you could do that, or you can change which points it is. You can close the loop. So this will look weird, but you can close the loop. The radius, how many rows and columns, these are also very important things when you're messing around with stuff. But, so if you want to make something quick and easy, this is a really great tool to do so. Now it looks like this is like a pipe. So save. Now, before I press play, just because it's been taking a couple seconds to load, let's talk about vertex colors. So every vertice, which is, remember, we click this here. This is a vertice. This is a vertice. I'm going to select the faces so we have all 4 of those vertices selected. Vertex coloring is in Tools, Probuilder, Editor, or Vertex Colors, Set Faces to Preset 1. So Probuilder, where's my vertex color stuff? Here it is, vertex color. Bring up our vertex color panel. So this is the default color palette, but what we can do is very quickly apply color, which will help us define, different areas of the map. We can do that very quickly. And right now I'm just selecting the faces, but like, let's say I wanted to select one of the edges and this edge is going to be red. Ooh, look at that. There's some gradient and shading and that kind of stuff. This one's blue. Yeah, so this one, I think that one's fine. But we can quickly make some really interesting color schemes or whatever we want to do. Maybe we want to add a path, right? So the fastest way we could do it is maybe we'll grab these edges, and this is going to be a path. So maybe it's a orange path. I'll align it right there. So very quickly we can add color and concept to a world. It's very helpful when planning out the level. So just try to stay seamless more so than I did. But if you're stitching stuff around, make sure that you don't have seams if you're having interiors, at least for the exterior shell of your room. Everything inside of it should be okay. And then let's press play just to see this beautiful exuberant color that we've added. We've got our path. And, it looks a little dull compared. All right. So as far as the assignment goes, let's talk about some practice things that you could do. So I think one best practice would be, why don't you try making a simple house, just 4 walls and, a window. Take about 3 hours and assemble yourself a little house, like a kid's drawing kind of thing, where, if you got 4 walls, a window, a door frame that you can walk in and out of, an angled roof. Maybe you can create a white picket fence and things like that around it. Spend about 3 hours on this, So making a simple house would be a great first attempt. Take a look more in the assignment, Whitebox assignment for that, for specific details. And post down below, what do you think the best level designs are? Where have you seen excellent level design? This might be visual storytelling. It looks really great because there's interesting things going on. Or maybe it's just the way the levels flow and make you not realize you moved from one environment to another. Yeah, let us know in the comments. And while you're leaving a comment about what your favorite level is, also, why don't you try listing the names of each of these tools without looking if you can? Give it a try. And again, if you have any questions or comments, also post them down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in class.